Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Grab Your Torch with Caleb and Joel. We got Joel here with us as
Well,
well, and we're here to talk about Survivor 48, Episode 2, which, talking a little bit before recording, we both thought this was a really good episode overall. We got to see a lot of the different tribe dynamics, which was nice, and also got to learn a lot more about the cast and get to know them better, which is so crucial, like early on, to get to know everyone well. So, what were your initial thoughts?
yeah, definitely a very explosive episode. I like to seeing all the dynamics. We get to see a lot of pairs, which is pretty common in modern Survivor, but we get to see like the idol, like specifically on purple, like really get to like see how everyone's playing the game. We see how Shaheem is like very like, what am I gonna do? Being like a little more cautious, not wanting to blow any relationships, while Thomas is like being villainous, which is super fun. We get to see Joe be loyal. We get to see Eva express her loyalty back. Star getting herself from the bottom, and Bianca is there. And I think overall, that's just like an example of like how good this episode really pushed the dynamics. Orange was super kumbaya, and Green Tribe is just like in a
They're a
world
hot
of.
mess. I
But we'll
think
get.
we should start talking about the Green Tribe. I have no idea what they're gonna do going forward. I have a pretty strong suspicion that they will probably lose again next week, just based off of how badly they competed now, and then also losing Kevin, which is probably their biggest strength.
Uh,
So going into next week, we'll probably see them lose another member, and then I probably would see a swap very similar to like season 45 right after that. Like whereas in 45 we had three people go in a row from Lulu, and then they switched. So I that's my prediction. I even though I'm loving the dynamics we're getting right now, though, it'd be kind of hard to lose that. But also mixing it up is always fun.
yeah, this is a good season where I feel like there's not necessarily like fodder, you know what I mean? Like some seasons you're watching and you're like, yeah, obviously they're not going to win. Like, and there are people like that this season, but there's a lot of options to win. And I think that's really fun. Overall, I think this episode was great. And I think we should talk a little more about Orange because Orange also got a good bit of screen time in this episode. So what were your thoughts?
I liked all of them on Orange. Like, it's really interesting to see like the dynamic, like Mitch just making a friendship with Charity, and then the Alliance of Four is like, Mitch, why'd you have to be with her, even though they have their own alliance already, and he w wasn't included in that. So it's like it's not like he's going against them at all. Um, so that was interesting that they're kind of mad at him for making friends with Charity, but I think for the most part, besides that little goof, like they were pretty kumbaya, like you said, as a tribe. And then the idol hunt on that side was also interesting to watch with um Kyle ended up getting it. So that was also really fun.
And I think the results of this episode really make you look back on the original scene between and Kevin and him, and we get to see that maybe this might be a good little editing trick from them to see him kind of rise above his initial failures. But a lot of idle talk this episode, which usually I'm kind of like whatever about advantages. And we'll get to the journey in a second, but um I think the idol really was like more of a point to show how people played. And I think in like I don't know. I think the best people got the idols on each tribe. Say getting the idol obviously was explosive, even though she did waste it. But I think Star getting it as well.
That
Like,
was a crazy moment to me is how she played getting the idol. It would have been so smart of her to just go find it, figure it out by herself, and not tell a soul. Because she correctly identified that she was not making good inroads with her tribe. So I
mhm.
think her going to find the idol initially was a smart idea, but bringing so many people into it just kind of gave her a death sentence for sure. Because like now
Yeah,
everyone is working together to make sure that they either keep her from playing it or getting it in the first place.
exactly. And we get to see like, oh my gosh, it's like a weird thing in Survivor where we see like her give like the clue to Shaheem. Shaheem kind of trying to like dilly-dallying around to give him more time to think about it. Thomas telling him to get rid of it so we can just vote her out. And which like it's a bold move, very bold move because they're not even going to tribal. So I fully agree with the idea of like, hey, let's relax because if she does get the idol, then you're the one who gave it to her, and you're not going home. So I think it was a overall good move, but it also going into the journey a little bit, we see that Thomas, Mary, and Mitch go to there, and they have this like cool little like slide one, which I don't know about you, but like when I saw it, I immediately knew not to get like the first five, like because you have to get the rest.
Right.
And it took them a minute to get it, and I'm glad they did get it, but I was like, okay, guys, like we should think about that a little more.
I mean, it was, good on Thomas and Mitch for getting the advantages, which they were both like, we had the steal a vote and a block a vote, which I feel like they're not super equal in terms of strength. I guess the only difference is like the steal a vote's public and then the block a vote isn't. So I think that might balance it a
Yeah,
little bit, but I think they only just gave them, different ones to differentiate it a little bit. I also don't like that they don't have an option to play.
yeah,
Like just giving the players agency in any situation is good. Even though like we saw with Emily, in season 45 that she decided not to play the puzzle that in her journey that she went when she was that was her boot episode, I believe. She
yeah.
didn't end up playing the journey, which was probably a smart move at the time and probably not as good TV because she didn't play it.
Mhm.
But having agency in the game is what's important for sure.
100%. And I like to see where like when I first saw that it was a steal vote and then like a secret block vote, it's kind of like it makes sense not to tell anyone about the secret one and maybe tell people about the steal vote because it is already public. But we see the complete opposite, where Thomas doesn't tell anyone, says he had a choice, which I think is a very smart move. Because I think one, like we see the dichotomy between Star telling everyone, making this huge mess, versus Thomas seeing that, learning the lesson. So I think that looks really good on Thomas. And then Mitch just looks like a complete sweetheart, this complete hero. We see him as like this really nice guy that everyone loves, but then we switch immediately to David being like, okay, we got to get an idol of ourselves. We got to combat this. So it's an interesting thing, and this was a big setup episode in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah, I worries me a little bit for Mitch and Charity just because I feel like they don't haven't calculated that they're on the bottom of their tribe and they're kind of both in it for the kumbaya. They have a good relationship with each other, obviously, but they haven't made like strong connections and alliance members outside of that. So it worries me for them if they go home, but I really don't think I see them going home in the near future just because like Green's so screwed at this point. Um, like it's hard for me to see a world where they can win another challenge. But I also enjoyed that David was trying to get on top of it and look for the idol. And then we could also talk a little bit about, Kyle and Camilla going to try to solve the idol together. Basically, Kyle was just like, "Hey, figure this out, man. I don't know how to do this." And Camilla, did the word scramble, went through all the different combinations of words, and basically got him the idol, which hopefully that results in a good alliance between them. Because like, if I was out there and someone asked me to help, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll help, and then do my best and not actually put
Yeah.
forth the best effort. Because it's like I'm not gonna ensure that you have power in the game. I think what Shaheen's doing is perfect with Star is just kind of like, hey, I'll help you, but it's kind of slow walking it a little bit and not
Mhm.
just diving in fully and helping her completely and solving the whole thing for her.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I think we hear her say something of the likes of like that's this like the ultimate display of trust. So I think that was really, really big, and it kind of puts those two kind of at the top of the tribe. I feel like where Kyle, specifically Kyle, has like made inroads with practically everyone at this point. Where at the beginning he really started out on a pretty low point, but then kind of slowly moved his way up, and now he has an idol. He has some good alliance members, and I could definitely see a world where he can like make some damage into the merge. He's definitely making the merge in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like Kyle and Camilla are like the perfect spot on the Orange Tribe, with kind of David and I don't remember her name, the other lady that's on that tribe, um,
Chrissy?
Chrissy. Yes, that's right. But the four of them being alliance of four, but I feel like Kyle and Camilla are now even closer alliance of two.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I kind of hope they go to tribal. I I'd want to see what happens because like even with a block and vote, nothing could really happen for Mitch and Charity. But I don't know. I would hope that something explosive happens. If not, they might just go into the merge with six numbers and then, they're just like, hey, take Mitch or take whoever as a kind of like a sacrifice. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But realistically, I think you're right. And we can get into the tribal fully now, but like I think Green is very, very screwed. They already were screwed because the challenge, which we got to talk about it, the challenges this season, as boring and like repetitive as a lot of them are, they've been good in the sense that like they've been very dynamic. We've seen tribes like come back and forth, which like doesn't really happen much in like tribal immunities anymore, which has been really cool. But we see specifically Cedric do really, really bad in this challenge. And why don't you talk about that?
Well, it was kind of hard to watch because everyone else was doing pretty well with it. I think a couple of other of the pairs had fallen a couple times here and there, but they just could not figure out how to transport the buoy across, which there's all these little individual aspects of challenges that could be hard. But I enjoyed that aspect of it. That was, going in pairs and doing it two at a time, through that section. And then also that the challenge didn't end in a puzzle. I thought that was a good change because I feel like we've always seen like, the water challenge always ends in like some sort of like fish puzzle or something like that. And it was nice to kind of see the return of the basketball. I know we've seen that before in Survivor, but being able to have a fully, athletic challenge was fun. And then yeah, Cedric just could not figure it out at all. And we can talk more into like after they got back after losing. I think Cedric really messed up with his alliances and choosing to turn on Kevin just because they had a good thing going, like the three guys. And I think that they could have taken over from there. But in isolating Kevin and voting him out, no longer is Mary working with y'all because she has nowhere to go. As soon as there's a swap or a merge or anything, she's leaving. She's not going to be a part of your alliance. And then I feel like Justin at this point he's kind of like just trying to hedge his bets a little bit.
Yeah,
So that's how he ended up voting correctly, which was good. But I think he also has a strong potential to cut ties because I think Say is just too chaotic. And Cedric going with that, I don't know if that's gonna bode him well in the future.
I completely agree. We see that like I this is a really odd moment I feel like in Survivor where like Kevin is traditionally like the person who runs the tribe. Like I saw Kevin like a lot like D or Austin. Like I mean he kind of looks like Austin in a lot of ways, like this physical young man. And I was like, oh, he's just doing what Austin did, like run the tribe through an alliance. But like we see that Cedric completely kind of takes the wrong approach with it, where I fully agree with Kevin and trying to vote out Say. I think that is the correct move. He goes into position with four with Mary, and two has got all of his alliance members there. He's either betting on a swap or he's just gonna have to let go of one of them. Great idea and everything, but like obviously it's not great to try to vote someone out with an idol, especially if someone as chaotic as her. Um, but like I mean, it was working. She wasn't going to play it until Cedric said something, and Cedric was trying to, have his cake and eat it too, and can't do that on Survivor. We see that everyone votes for Kevin, and it was just like, when it rains, it pours. And I don't think Kevin did all that much wrong, which is like a weird thing, but yeah, what do you got?
I'd agree with that. I have to listen to like Why Blank Lost on our half this week when it comes out because there's always a reason. But um, I do think like Kevin did a lot of things right. I think maybe the only thing that he did possibly incorrectly was trying to take the lead too much, maybe, and trying to pressure everyone else into voting for Say and not listening to everyone and trying to figure out if that's actually what Cedric and Justin wanted to do before moving
Mhm.
forward with that. That could be something he could have done different, but I thought he made the right move game wise, and I think taking Say out was appropriate at that time. And Mary had nowhere else to turn to begin with, so I think she's just kind of a floating number where she can't really do much. So we could also talk a little bit about like Say's idle play because we haven't seen an idle play very much in the new era. I think it was very smart of her to play it just because we've seen too many times where people hold it, and there's always one that's re-hidden too. So her playing it and reading the room well, even though she didn't get the most votes, even though it flushed it. I think that was the correct move just because it showed that she trusted Cedric when he gave her that information and
Mhm.
then ensured that she wasn't the vote because it's too early to hedge your bets when you're
Oh yeah,
on, you know, day five or
especially her.
yeah,
Like
especially her. She's already heard her name. There's no reason to risk going home at the second tribal council.
yeah, and I think she's just I thought Rome was a chaotic player and an aggressive player. She's taken Rome up to like 1,000. And it's really interesting to watch. And I really like this kind of player that people have to navigate around. And I think that's really interesting. But also in the same way, she's like playing well, but she's like completely ignoring the social side of the game. Like Cedric is her really only ally. And I think Cedric really like trusts her because she told him about the idol, which is a good play on her part. But then we see that like she wants to vote Kevin, which Cedric doesn't get his way. And I think Justin actually pulled off a decent move here where once he heard like he kind of sussed out, she's like, hey, Say's talking about Kevin. Why is she talking about Kevin? And so Cedric's like, hey, like this is what happened, kind of thing. And Justin like immediately corrects course, where I do think voting out Kevin in that spot for Justin is the correct move because Mary and Say are never working together.
No,
No, not in a bazillion years. And so Justin at the very least will get a 2-2 tie, and he knows that.
right.
And so I think he's probably playing the best. I don't think anyone from Green is winning. I want Mary to win. She's so fun and I want her to make it to merge, but it's just like they're in such a bad spot where Kevin was by far and away their most like best physical competitor.
Yeah,
And we
I
see
think sorry.
so much like
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a bad game move overall. Like, um, I do agree with you fully though with like with Say's move and the way she's playing. She's completely ignoring her social game just because her focus up to this point has been, okay, I need to get on the beach. I need to find the idol. I need to bring these people in. She hasn't gotten to know people well, and I think that will bite her later just because she doesn't have those strong bonds and connections like we've seen on the other tribes. And I think the new era is all about the social game. And social game's been a part of Survivor, since the very beginning. But I think we've seen a big emphasis on it in the 40s. Whereas like in the 30s, we had a lot of focus on strategy and big moves. I think it's pivoted more to the social game and people value that a lot. We saw that with Kenzie and Charlie in 46, people valued the social game more. And so that's really important to take into consideration. And I think she's just kind of leaving that to the side. I don't know if she plans to start making bonds or just kind of bulldoze her way through the game. But if she doesn't like course correct, she's probably going home soon. Not on Green Tribe. If they just keep going over and over, I think she's staying. Her and Cedric are in control of that tribe. They're not going anywhere. Um, but as soon as they start interacting with the other players, I worry for them.
I agree. And I think like I don't know. I think I really hope there's a world where she somehow makes it to the end of the game. I there's zero chance she ever wins, but like I just want to see like her do it and just see what a game like this would look like. Where like it's been 2 episodes and like if there's a heroes versus villain, she's already on it, like and we already have like a really great rivalry with Mary for no reason. Like Mary's just like this funny, quirky like woman who's just out there having fun and like Sage just hates her. And it's super weird. And I think like now moving forward, like without Kevin, like Kevin was like the shield for that tribe. Like that guy was huge, even though he like broke his shoulder or whatever. Like there's nowhere to hide now. Like they're gonna go in, and if they have anything less than 3 players, then like I think they're done for because we see with like the Tika 4 or not Tika 4, the Tika 3, and even in season 46 with like Kinsey, Tiff, and Q. Like if you have a strong three, like that can get you far in the game, but they're not going to have that, and I really fear that none of them might make it to the end.
Yeah, I'm really worried about this Green Tribe. I think they just got started off on the wrong foot. The balance, like at the beginning of the season two, with like physical players, I thought that was a little skewed to begin with, when creating the tribes. But still, like decided to vote off Kevin, and that's on them. So going forward, these challenges that they lose, the ball's in their court. They have a chance to win any of these challenges. And looking into the preview, I don't know if you saw it, but it looks like the blindfold challenge is coming back. So that might either be a reward challenge or it could be immunity as well.
That
I've
that could be
always
an
seen the
equitable
latter.
one, so
Yeah.
I have a shot there.
But yeah, that seems more of a equalizer of a challenge. And I think US Survivor does a great job at that, just balancing it out well. I haven't watched Australian Survivor this year, but I've also heard like this season, the Brains versus Brawn, there's been a few like, you know, PvP challenges that are just definitely favored
Yeah,
towards the Brawn tribe, just because of, the way that the
bronze.
dynamics are. I think in US Survivor, they just do a great job of balancing all the challenges and making them all pretty even to begin with, which
Mhm.
does take away for some of the viewer quality of those challenges. Like sometimes they're not as fun to watch, especially when we have puzzles at the end of all of them. I don't have anything wrong with puzzles. I just like seeing a variety. So that's where I'm at.
I agree. And I think moving forward, like predicting more of the season because we're already kind of on there. I'm
Yeah,
still
let's go.
on it. Like in my opinion, there's someone on purple's gonna win. It's I don't see how it's not a California girl. Because like I feel like if you look at it, those are the best three, like arguably best 3 players playing right now. Even like you see Joe is like the guy who's like everyone's talking to. Like he feels kind of like I don't know, like this old school survivor player.
Hmm.
It's like really like good at connecting. And we see a lot of him. Like we don't really get to see outside of like maybe D, like a dominant survivor player,
Right.
like new era. And it would be cool if we had someone like Joe just take this alliance to the end, beat everyone, and like all the survivor fans are like, what? Because like we just don't get that. And I definitely see a world where that happens. I see a world where Shaheem pulls off a bunch of moves, uses social connections like we see in this episode, plays it smart. And I also see a world where Thomas does what he does. He's villainous, lies to people, all the stuff that Survivor nowadays pushes, and goes on to win because he also has a secret alliance with Bianca and also I guess a black eye. Like
Right. I saw that too.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
He
Like
got clocked. But I
yeah,
also still rolling with Shaheen as my winner pick. I thought it was still a good episode for him. There's nothing wrong that he did at all. He played the idol situation with Star perfectly. Going into next week, though, we've said it a million times in this podcast, but definitely think that Green's going back to tribal. And unfortunately, I do think that leaves Mary on the outs unless she finds something. And so I feel like it will be a pretty straightforward episode. And we saw that in the teaser as well, her running off looking for an idol or something like that. That's probably her only chance of avoiding going home. And so I think there won't be a lot of drama except for whether or not she can find an idol. Um, and then besides that, if she does end up finding an idol, say it's a sitting duck, in my opinion. So
it's one of those two.
it's just one of those two. I think Justin has played this situation perfectly. Cedric, we already talked about how he made the wrong move this week, and I think he's in a good position on his tribe for now, but there's
Mhm.
no way he has any inroads with anyone else going forward. I think Justin is playing the middle perfectly, and I think he's in the best spot on that tribe.
I agree. And I think something to note is that like I think traditionally the winner, like if you look at the edit of like former winners, like pre-merge doesn't matter like a ton. Like almost every winner had like something bad happen in the pre-merge and they look really bad, but then they really make it up like towards the beginning of the merge and like a little towards that. So I definitely see a world like, for example, Gabler, he messed up like the entire game and he still won. So I definitely don't want to rule too many people out, but I do agree that Cedric and a lot of these people are in a tough road to even get there. So I definitely see like maybe we'll get Gabler this season, and but I really hope we get a dominant winner. I think it'd be fun.
I feel like we're due for one too. I think, Dee was pretty dominant, but she also had a really good alliance. And I do think Rachel is also really dominant, and she definitely
Mhm.
had some of the social game that was used to keep her around for a while, but she lost that bit. Like everyone was starting to go after her, probably starting at like the final seven or so. And from there, she just won challenges and found the idol and was able to play that. So I
Us.
think she was able to bulldoze through at the end too, which was impressive. And so I think maybe seeing someone like physically intimidating, a lot of those people get targeted early merge. We've seen that, you know, seasons upon seasons, we saw that with Jonathan, even though he made it through pretty far, but he kind of lost his steam towards the end. Seeing someone like, a Joe Englam, someone like that who everyone perceives as a threat going into the merge, someone like that on this season, I would also say is Joe. And I
Yeah.
think everyone will look at him that way. And if he can be able to turn it on and just dominate, and I think that could be a really interesting situation with you know a Mike Holloway type of win,
Mhm.
which we haven't
And I
seen
think
since season 30.
I know. And I think Rachel was such a fresh, like, breath of fresh air that, like, I've been clamoring for so long. I just wanted someone to go on an immunity run and win the game. And I'm really glad it was Rachel. Such a different archetype to have that kind of run. But I think this season, we could always have, like, the Erica, the Marianne, like, someone's on the bottom for most of the early merge, picks up the pieces at the, like, final seven, final six, goes on to win. But I really want to see someone like Joe, someone like Shaheem. I thought Kevin was going to be one of them, but I was very much wrong. One of these like big guys, because a lot of the focus of this season had been on like the bigger people of the tribe, like Mitch, like David, like Kyle. Like these are some really big guys, and I do think a man is going to win. Just sheerly off of edit, like we just seen men more. And not that saying that a woman can't win, but I think just by sheer odds of us having like four women in a row, I think 4-3.
Three, I
I think
believe. Yeah,
yeah, I think it's like probably gonna be a man just of odds, but I like all the women too. This is a great
you never
cast.
know. I think all around it's a good cast, and I would be happy with anyone to win.
Hashtag Mary win. Come on, Mary.
Yeah, Mary got to pull it back around. I don't know
Be
how
my
she's
favorite winner ever.
if she finds an idol, that'd be great. But
Idols every round.
every round.
Ben
But
times 1,000.
I do think if they go to tribal next week, which is very likely, I do think we're getting a swap. And I
I
think that'll be interesting to see how that shakes
hope
up for
so.
sure. So, well, everyone, thank you for watching. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If not, you can also listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on that as well. So go ahead and check that out if you'd like. And then if you're on YouTube, comment if you would like to, if you have any questions about the episode, or if you have any interesting thoughts that you'd like to share about it. We'd love to hear those. And tell others about the podcast. We'd love to get more people involved and, create a little bit of a group of people that just enjoys watching Survivor and talking about it. So without further ado, thank you so much, and we will be back later.
See ya.